So here's the air filtration for the rooms. This one takes care of 2 rooms where you see those 2 plenums going down. There's actually a wall right down to Senum, a load bearing wall going all the way down, splitting the rooms. One room is over here, one room is over here. They both have their own like Canafan blower motors on them, on controllers. And location right about here, we have the true deep pleated HEPA filter, not one of those fake HEPA filters you buy from some of the stores who advertise HEPA filters. Over here in this slot going down inside here, there's a MERV 8 pre-filter that goes right here. And you can tell when they start to get plugged. And right now, here's some of the maintenance we gotta do. This company, I specifically asked them when a customer was ordering these, make sure that you put tubes that were UV resistant. Are these outdoor rated? And that salesman of course said yes, and about 2 years, 3 years later, they're all busted like this. Every one of them, the hose material is becoming brittle. This is what happens when you talk to salesmen from companies who are reps who just want to make a sale. They'll tell you anything. And I was very curious because usually anything that's a clear plastic is not very good with UV. Clears and UV from the sun do not go together very well. But normally with the 2 brand new filters, it'd be somewhere about 0.2 inches static pressure water column here. And then as the filter gets dirty and starts plugging up, the needle would slowly come up and tell you, you have a set for what the OEM manufacturers of the blower motors, and plus your energy consumption. You don't want to go above 1 inch column. I tell them about 0.8, no more than 0.8, change them, but it usually almost takes about a year. Still has their original, after 2 years, still has their original HEPA filters in them. Just the pre-filters get changed, and that's about it. Every 6 months change the pre-filters. This roof up here is not very dirty, so it's not that bad. That's another one over there. It's the same size of these other 2, but it's only feeding 1 room. You can see one feed, that one going down. The inlet is actually located at the bottom down here. There's a large hole in the bottom. The fans that are feeding, this is meant to feed a much bigger system, but it's actually only one 1000 CFM motor. And see, here's the problem again. These broke too, and they're filled up with water. And that was by the representative who was selling this product. When I specifically asked them if those were UV rated, and they said yes, typical salesman wants to make that sale. Low-life, scum-sucking salesmen and marketing departments. And here's the third one. Somebody tried to break in here and they were successful. They couldn't knock this off and climb down, so they took out a sawzall and cut through the roof to break in. But what they didn't know, they were breaking into a false ceiling wall area that was isolated, that was more plywood, and they couldn't get through it. So here's the other one, same exact seam as the other side. And I believe this had the same failures, yes. So I'll cut these, I'll clean out the water from them, reattach them. I'm gonna see if I could pick up some black ASB ones, or ones that are UV resistant. So this was the other one, and feeds the 2 rooms that are under here. Totally isolated, positive pressure rooms going through a true HEPA filter. You can't even get no virus, no mold spores, no bacteria, nothing gets through that filter. And then these 4 units here, these are all for dehumidifiers. Installed those several years ago, and a testament to how clean it is. We still have not done a cleaning on these systems, on the coils, and I can literally see through this coil through to the other side, and I could see light, and I could see the roof on the other side. So that's how clean these are, and this has been a few years. So it looks like I still won't have to do any service on these for a few years, cleaning wise. And this is what happens when you listen to salesmen who want to sell their product and tell you anything. There should be a law against salesmen. Should make a capital punishment. So that's about it for what we have to do up here. The only service after a couple years is change those out, cut them for now, get them up and running. So the customer, he comes up here every couple months and he reads his meters to know when his air filters need to be changed. Man, that thing's quiet. This was I think a 17 SEER units, 16 or 17 SEER units, and much better than the pieces of shit he had before. He unfortunately was conned in and bought. Somebody sold him, what was the name of that company? Cerna, no, not that piece of shit company. The other piece of shit company, I can't read it right now. I'll put it down in the description below if I remember the name of Excel Air. That's it. That other piece of shit company. So this customer and many other customers were sold some air conditioning units from a company called Excel Air. And they had a bunch of bullshit line, deceitful advertisement with stated things that they were not, but they got sold. Customers didn't know. So the 5-ton units that he had, they were drawing 23 amps a piece, times several times, and they still were not providing the cooling. When I tested them, each one was not putting out no more than 38 to 42,000 BTUs on a 5-ton system. The ducting that they sold them that came with the 5-ton system was all undersized because of course it's cheaper and shipping is less and it's smaller packaging, so you can sell them as units and kits. That was Excel Air. The first thing I did was redo the ducting and the sizing and the airflow. As soon as I fixed the airflow, the BTUs went up approaching their 5-ton rating. Until then, they were between 38 and 42,000 BTUs instead of 60,000 BTUs. That's how much they were screwing all their customers over. At every job site I went to that had an Excel Air unit, they all suffered from the exact same problem, and the fix for them was exactly the same: fix the airflow. Apparently their engineer doesn't know, let me put it in kinder words, doesn't know excrement from a hole in the ground. I don't know what the hell to say without cussing, but yeah, it was just airflow problems. But they were still drawing 20 some amps. This right here, this draws 11 amps, 5-ton system. 21 to 23 amps for an Excel Air unit, 11 amps. When it kicks down to its lower stage, because this is a 2-stage one, it goes down to 9 amps. 9 amps or 11 amps. So would you rather be drawing 9 amps or 11 amps off your power service for each one? So if you have 4 of these, 6 of these, 10 of these at 20 some amps a piece, or would you rather draw 9 to 11 amps? You make your choice. And that's what happens when you listen to salesmen and marketing literature. And so all these coils are clean after a few years. No need to go over anything on any of these. And actually, this was my son's first install of these kinds of systems. He actually assembled these from their panels and everything. This was the first time he ever worked on anything like that. So that was a good little trainer for him. And that's it up here on the rooftop. And you see a little labor. Another thing was this line set. So my recommendation for the customer is always to save them money. Think of time, labor, materials, and less friction. Line friction means less energy spent. The shorter your line length, the straighter it is with the fewer bends, is all money in electricity that you save. It's less work the unit has to do. So the first one went in. This is a load-bearing wall right here. Everything is on top of a load-bearing wall, and it's right close to the electrical where the electrical comes out. So when you're doing a system for a customer, there's two trains of thought. There's the contractor who's putting in a job and he's thinking about money and money only and just generating money and try to yank as much money out of his customer as he possibly can and then fly the coop. And what you would do, and what a lot of them do, they'll locate, like what the customer says, he wants to locate them way to hell over on the other side or somewhere far away. Well, when you locate something far away from, say, the electrical, you're going to have to pay the electrician. Say this is time 4, there's 3 units there, there's 1 unit behind me. So 3 times the electrician is going to have to run power all the way from there, all the way to the back of the building back here. And 4 separate runs, actually 4 separate runs. So you have to pay for materials and labor to lay down those materials 4 times. Then on top of that, unfortunately, the customer wanted his air handler, his dehumidifiers located in the back part of the room, and I told him that was a bad idea for multiple reasons. But one was the materials. I go, I'm going to save you several $1,000s here on your electrical run, because the electrician doesn't have to take the power to the back of the building, but you want me to locate the air handlers in the back of the building, then you're going to have to pay us for time and materials on materials going all the way to the back. And I go, just in labor, you got, like, in material, there's $2,000 just to do that little run right there. And so after seeing all that and the cost and the materials, there was a mind change. And then, as you can see over there, the units in the line set just went forward 3 feet and straight down. And the dehumidifier is located like 3 or 4 feet below the roof line. So you have like a 10-foot line. Minimum materials, minimum labor. Yes, I make less money, but I just save the customer money. And anything I can do to make a line set shorter with fewer bends, that means less work the unit does, less power. And a unit's supposed to last 15, 20 years. And these things run all the time, 24/7, 365 for the rest of their life. And if you start adding up and multiplying this times 4, 8, you're out at a job, you might have 20 of these on a rooftop. And if you can save the customer a few hundred watts of power consumption every hour for 7 days a week, 24 hours around the clock for 365 days a year, that adds up to a hell of a lot of electricity by the end of the life of this service unit, not including the materials and labors. So that's another important aspect when you're thinking of location of your units for your customer. Think of their wallet too, not just your own wallet, but in the long, because your customer has to be a lifetime partner. You're going to be working with this customer for the rest of your life, most likely. Like now, my son is starting to work for this customer, and this customer's, like many, is asked, can I call up your son and have your son, when you guys are really busy, can I just have your son come out and service them? And that's how it should be, generation to generation. In this instance, this is like the 4th warehouse that I've done for the same customer. And like with most all customers, multiple large commercial facilities, job after job after job, because after they get screwed from somebody who purposely and intentionally places units far away from their intended location so they could add up the material cost. You know how much money you make on copper and wiring and piping and labor if I were to put these units, say, all the way in the front of the building or all the way in the back of the building, and how much copper I would save in piping and insulation and labor hours? I could jack in another $30,000 in the installation of these 3 units just by locating the air handlers on one side and for some reason making up a bullshit excuse why the condensing units need to be as far as they need to be, and then just charging them the difference. I mean, that's a lot of profit. I mean, I would really line my profit really good if I did that, but I would be screwing my customer. Your customer will probably later find out that you screwed them and you just lost a lifetime customer. So think of your customers bottom line, because if you can make your customer do better and make more money, then he can maybe purchase another warehouse, another commercial office property, whatever, and then you get that job. And then you save him some money, save him on his PG&E bills, you know, just keep doing things to show you save your customer money in the long haul, because they're going to own these properties for 20, 30 years. And when you're the owner of a large office building, say a six-story, I'm going to use one of the examples of a 6-story office building we did. If you are the owner of a 6-story office building and your PG&E bill, because you have old units that were installed back in the 70s, and your monthly PG&E bill is almost $100,000 a month, and you take out those old dogs that were in there that use ducting, and you put a VFD in each floor. Example, this certain 6-floor office building that I did, we removed 2 7.5-ton train units that were installed back in the 80s with the ducting. And I think he told me at that time, several years ago, on that little office building that was barely even occupied, it only had a few customers per floor, and he was like at $6,800 a month just in electricity for his heating and cooling, off of the 6 floors that only had like anywhere from 1 to 3 tenants, not even like 1/3 occupied, and his power bill was that high. So what we did was we removed 2 7.5-ton train units and put in one single 6-ton VFR with multiple heads in every office building that barely ran. If one person came in and they turned on their heating or cooling, only that one tiny office would only consume as much power as it needed of 9,000 or 12,000 BTUs for that one office. Where previously the customer would come into that one floor and there was only one thermostat, and if one person came in on a Saturday morning and turned on the heating or the cooling, the whole entire office building floor level was heated off of the one thermostat, just because there was one person in one office. And we were able to eliminate that by removing 2 7.5-ton units and replacing it with one 6-ton unit. That is your difference in savings. Can't always do that, but in this certain location, under the occupancy, that the way the offices were set up, we were able to make that exchange by eliminating 2 7.5-ton old train units that were installed in the 80s for one single VFR unit that had one head in every little office. That's it for today on this system.